I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. Somebody with drive and heart, but not the skills. And suddenly it's on you to train them. No L&D team, no curriculum, no time. And that's why I brought on Luis Garcia, founder of Pete.com. His platform turns your existing manuals and tribal knowledge into real scalable training, complete with AI-powered avatars that let people practice tough conversations and de-escalation before they ever face them on the job. If your team is improvising, if essential skills are being left to chance, or if training feels slow and inconsistent, this conversation will show you how to make learning fast, personalized, and measurable. If you lead people, this one's worth listening to. Luis, great to have you on the show. I'm so glad that you're here. Big picture. All organizations are confronted with the reality that they need to be in the business of their business, but also of developing their people. You know, a lot of times you have to hire somebody who doesn't quite have all the skills, but maybe they have the right attitude, the right commitment. So we have to train them up. We have to get them to the point where now they're really contributing at the level that we would hope. Mm-hmm. So not for the big boys, the multi-billion-dollar companies, but so the smaller organizations often don't have, you know, huge departments to be able to design training programs and have, you know, OD people facilitate sessions and so forth. Could you kind of tell us from a macro perspective, what's happening in the industry relative to learning and development and the trends that you see happening, especially now that we have AI being a huge force that is automating so much? Because a lot of people don't know what they don't know. A lot of people aren't even using ChatGPT, you know? So what is your perch telling you about what you're seeing?
Well, thank you so much. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the world kind of opened up the possibilities, this new technology, artificial intelligence, which is not new really, but the generative AI portion is newer. AI as a technology has been around for over 50 years. But this new portion allows us to do things we couldn't do before. So to bring it back to your question, smaller to medium-sized organizations usually kind of have to live with the problem. If they needed to scale their talent and train them up, and they did all kinds of different inefficient ways to do it. The most common one is shadowing, and say when the new person follows a person more senior, and then and learn the job that way. Some other times they try to tap into the experts or leaders and say, okay, you're the head of sales, and the head of sales himself or herself has the need to train the people in the product, in the processes, and they have to take it up on themselves to do that. Or the most common one is that somehow it lands in the hands of the HR leader. For some reason, people decided that somehow they have to be an expert in all these things and also an expert in learning, which they're not. But those usually are the three solutions that small and medium-sized companies have. And if they grew enough to then be able to put together a learning and development department or training department, however you want to call it, then they did that. That is expensive. But if you have the money, you can do it. But if not, they used these other ways to do it. The problem is they all have the same problem. It is that you're having somebody that is not really equipped to be a trainer becoming a trainer. And not only that, they're also becoming a curriculum expert and a trainer at the same time. So they're not only creating the curriculum and also delivering it.
So there's an interesting distinction you're beginning to reveal
Yeah.
here. So I want to stop you for a second. What's the distinction of the difference between a person who can design the training versus a person who can deliver the training?
Great questions. Most of the time, the person that designs the training doesn't have to be an expert in the topic, but they have to be an expert is in translating the expertise into a course. Uh, where the actual trainer most of the time is a practitioner, and usually they've done the job, and then they can also deliver that.
So what
Most of the
about
time, we combine both things into the same person.
yes, so you got the instructional designer
Hmm.
who creates the agenda, the materials, the flow,
Right.
and so forth. You've got the trainer
Hmm.
who you said is often the real world subject matter expert in this
Right.
topic. They've got the credibility. I've done it.
Right.
Um, okay. What about another person who may not necessarily be the expert, but is so good about facilitating and creating an environment for learning, meaning that they're experts at that distinction, not
Right.
I don't know how to do what you're doing, but I know how to create an environment that you can really learn.
That's
You're
all. It's
smiling all
so
over the
yeah,
place,
I am
Luis. What
because
am I? Did I get
yeah.
something? Did I hit a nerve with you, buddy?
It did because we have seen historically those people everywhere, and in classes, in elementary school, all the way to college. I call them the good communicators and performers, and
Ah,
they're naturally good communicators and they're great performers in front of people, and therefore people feel that they're being educated. Uh, but they're not necessarily are learning experts or experts in something in particular. They just really good communicators.
so you say you need all three? I'm gathering.
Sometimes you do need all three. Um, but in digital education, which is what I've been done, what is particular about it is that you remove the expert from the equation at the time of learning. Uh, so that was something very different that happened when education went digital. The instructor used to be not only the owner of the information, but the one that also delivered the information and also just the information, the curator of it. But when you remove them from the classroom, when there's not a classroom experience in real time, then the instructor became a curator and a facilitator of the
Hmm.
information. And so which open up a new problem, which is now before used to be if you are that communicator and you maybe have some slides behind you that are supporting you, right?
Right, right.
So the first thing that people thought about when they went online to digital education, I just use that, those slides
Yeah,
behind it, right?
right.
And the problem with that is that those slides alone, without that communicator in front of you, are not enough to teach by themselves.
Well, how many times have you and those listening do you see a leader or a person in front of the room? All they're doing is
Is
going through
reading.
their slides and
Right.
reading the very thing that you could be reading,
Yeah.
and that's their presentation.
And that's assuming that actually the materials are good.
Right.
Um, so the problem there is that how do you make sure that those materials are instructionally sound? Meaning that they are able to teach by themselves. Uh, so that's what the first problem of digital education has is, and that's why you use instructional designers. Those are the guys that can go sit with the expert, extract the knowledge, design a course, design the activities that will go with that course, design those lessons, all those things. And they don't have to be an expert themselves. They're an expert in that translation. But then you need that third person. So when you're asking the head of sales to be the trainer and to train their own people, that person has to they have to figure out a way to translate his expertise or her expertise into a course or at least a lesson and also be an expert on delivering that as well. Uh, if you take them out of the equation, then it has to be an expert in creating those materials in a way they can stand by themselves. Otherwise, they're always going to need that trainer in order to deliver, and that's not very scalable. So what you want to do is create courses that are self-paced. That the learner themselves can just do the learning. But you always historically you needed that instructional designer to do that process. And that's what we actually automated a bit. An algorithm is instructional design.
Got it. So that's your company, that's your bread and butter, that's what you're all about. So,
Yes.
um, 2 questions.
Yes.
What topics work really well
Uh-huh.
in this space of self-learning using self-paced process, like what you're
Right.
talking about, that they will literally have new knowledge and hopefully new behavior
Mm-hmm.
as a result of that framework?
Right.
What are the topics that are inbounds? Yes, do it. Because I'm going to ask you the second question is like, what are the ones that are out of bounds? Like maybe that's the topic that we shouldn't try to
Yeah.
force into this particular model.
Okay. This is great. Before I answer that, there's a second part to the learning equation that
Okay.
is the more complex, even more complex than the materials that you consume to learn. And it is the evaluation of learning. It's like, how do I know that you actually learn? That
Hmm.
historically has been super evasive because um, you would like the expert to ask you questions and be able to practice and all of that, and that's not very scalable. Somebody invented tests at some point, and as a way of evaluation of learning, and it works to a level, but it's not really a very effective way to evaluate learning because people learn differently and in different directions. But you cannot always use that expert to ask you the questions and certify. So that's the other part that we do very well. We're able to do practice and evaluation of learning personalized without having to use the expert. So back to your question is that,
Yeah.
so when we started Pete, we thought that it was going to be all about white collar jobs, right? It's that they're already sitting in a computer. They're already used to being trained every single day, every single
Yeah.
minute of the day. We all being trained by the things that we're reading and experiencing behind our screens. And we certainly have customers that have that. They create the company onboarding and the sales training and all that kind of stuff. But someone around the road, we started getting customers for deskless jobs that were not really people behind their computer. Uh, and we thought it was very interesting. The first customer we had for that was as the soccer club here, the professional MLS team in Orlando.
Hmm.
So when you go to a game, you go into a stadium and there's all these people around that are there to help you. Find the bathroom or find your seat or all those things. That is, and there's some advanced one they call ambassadors, and they kind of talk to their VIPs and things like that. That workforce is deployed super quickly. They hire them at the beginning of the season and give them one lesson and in the room, and hopefully they get it, and then that's it. That's all the training they were getting.
Yeah.
But really, during the season, they're changing. Some people quit, some people come in, and those will not get trained at all. So we got hired, or they licensed our platform to train those because they were really not really being trained. And they started creating courses for those things, and then even the interaction with fans is like, how do you actually help a fan find what they're looking for? Have they practice that conversation that they have to have,
Hmm.
which they can do with our platform. So we started getting more customers like that in construction, in HVAC,
Hmm.
in those places where they have distributor workforces where shadowing really breaks because you can't really watch it.
Yeah.
And it's super inconsistent, the training, because sometimes shadowing works with, if you're shadowing somebody really good, but then it becomes pretty bad if you're shadowing somebody that is not really as good.
Right.
So now we're getting that our technology works really well for those kind of jobs, and not so much for the other ones that we thought at the beginning that was going to be uh, our ideal customer.
Understood. So, um, there's just so many questions. I'm trying to get the first one out here, but if I think about what you said, I'm wondering there's a difference between memorization learning. I can regurgitate something.
Mhm.
And then when you get into some of the soft skills, it's about the behavior, the attitudes, the ability to, I don't know, deal with conflict or communicate in a certain way that
Right.
or to show empathy,
Right.
emotional intelligence. So, one, are these topics that can be effectively, quote unquote, taught in your environment?
Yeah, they are. And we've seen it how they will take a support group and train them on de-escalation,
Okay.
and or sales team in train them in practicing how to cross sell or how to overcome a a customer objection. And uh, for those kind of jobs, it's very common to see, but there's millions of techniques for that. But for jobs that the one I was describing, that was something that will never be trained on. Eh, if you have a security person, if you go to a concert, you see those guys with the yellow jackets, and they don't get to they get hired a few days before, deployed into that concert. Tomorrow I gotta
Right.
work another one. And so at first it was like, how do we get them the information specifically about this venue and about this event that they can quickly get to it and get it. But now we also found that they could practice how to de-escalate the conversation with a fan that was being very difficult, and they never got to practice that, uh, and now they can.
Yeah. So there's a movie, you probably have seen it. Others, I'm sure, have seen it. It's probably 10, 12 years ago. It's called Her.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell the story real quickly. The hero in our story basically has a bot, an assistant that he ends up using to help him get through his work and so forth. But it's such an advanced AI bot, keeps learning, keeps getting better, that he ends up having a relationship, an
Yeah.
emotional relationship with this bot. And then the tragedy at the end is that she dumps him for other bots. It's awful, right? But my question then is, are we do we see at the level that you're talking about relative to, you're sort of saying small to medium sized businesses, are we seeing this sort of self-paced process that you've been describing involve these AI bots that we are having conversations with, that know me, know you, and that we can almost practice a crucial conversation? We can practice empathy because what we're getting from the visual image, even though it looks exactly like a human being, but it isn't, we start to evoke the emotional coefficient for that relationship
Mhm.
because we're triggered in the way in which we would with the real human being. Is that technology available now for those smaller to mid-sized businesses, or is it too expensive to even go down that road?
Yes, it is available.
It
And
is available. Okay.
yes, and
Okay.
so when we started a year ago, and we will do those kind of simulations at first. Like the first generation was text, so you will practice
Mm,
those conversation typing, which we knew that it would work for certain audience, for certain definitely the guy that's working security is not going to be typing, you know. I love to have to practice that conversation. The next iteration was voice, so they be able to use microphone, speak to it, then the system will answer with voice, and then you feel like you actually have a conversation. The latest generation, which is we deployed just a couple of months ago, then is with a video avatar, and so now
mm.
you're having a conversation with somebody that looks humanly real, um, and that you can have the conversation. Now, to your point about the emotional side of it, that's what is important about focus applications like ours, right? We're not here for that. We're here to train them in what they need to be trained, and the guidelines are narrow to the information that is provided in the course.
So I'm sorry. So say that last part again. So I think I may
So
have
you're,
missed
you're not going to
something.
have a conversation. The avatar is really contextualized within the course that you're taking.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
and so you're not really there to have a general conversation about whatever you want, like you can have today with ChatGPT. Is
Right.
is really contextualized to the course that you're
Within the,
taking.
yeah, right. I understand. I understand.
Yeah,
We're not going to go off and have relationships with our bots.
you're
I
not
get
gonna
it.
have a relationship with it. Yeah.
Although there are some that are working in that direction, but that's a whole nother
Yes,
story.
and they will have the guardrails for that also, right?
Right.
And We hope.
All right. So, what about the idea of group learning, meaning the interactivity, not just with my own self-paced, and maybe there's a
Mm,
bot that helps me with a certain contextual piece of this. I get all that.
right.
But do you in your company one create platforms where people can get together and learn
Mhm.
together, or if not, do you see that that's a trend that's happening?
I love that question because I'm a true believer that as a learner in a learning space, you learn from the structure, you learn from the materials, you learn from your peers, and I think those are all the inputs that you can receive. And
Mm,
self-paced education has this thing particular that you kind of don't have the peers as part of this of the experience. And I,
right.
as a person passionate in learning, I always feel that that is a component that is missing. So today we're not addressing it yet. It's always in the back of my mind how we're going to do it.
Okay.
It hasn't been a very efficient way to do self-paced education in community. Um, some ways that people have done it is like they have discussion boards with the course,
Yeah.
but because it's self-paced, you can never get the context. Some people are at the beginning, some people are at the end, some people pay attention, some people didn't. And so it's really hard to build community when you uh, when it's fully self-paced. You can do self-paced with start and end dates, and in those cases
Start
you
and
can
end dates.
contact.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so at least people are kind of on the same time taking it. Uh, but at least in my experience, those experiments have not really reached the levels that when you have cohort-based education, you have that great advantage that you can take advantage of learning from your peers.
So back to this idea that, in a sense, you're saying is how do we motivate people to do the self-paced learning? Boards may not necessarily catch their attention. There was a guy that I
Right.
interviewed once who was the CEO of a company called Goki out of India, and when as a young person he built up the largest video game company in the Indian country's history and sold it for like $100 million. So his secret sauce was using gamification technologies to
Mhm.
inspire and to incentivize behavior so that people would want to stay in the game in order to learn whatever they're learning. So now he's moving his attention to healthcare and so forth.
Right.
Do you use any sort of incentivization to motivate people to do this process? And if so, how does that work?
Great question, and there's I could talk for days about gamification and
Yeah, yeah.
different kinds of gamification that you could use in education because it could be as
Right.
simple as throwing confetti when you end the course,
Right, right.
and that people call that gamification. That's not,
Right,
and
right.
or it could be accumulating points and things like that. Uh, when you're doing workforce learning, you do have an additional motivator, which is like it's required for your job, and so people just
Hmm.
gotta do it. And so in a lot of our customers, this is required training for them to do the job. This is not fluff for you to you know enhance you and develop yourself like in bigger companies you will see the L&D. They're not really training department. They call it self-learning and development because it's more about I'm going to give you courses that it will teach you how to be a leader here, and that is where about the values and all that kind of stuff. Here it's very practical. It's about your job, and it is you start next week and you have to do these 3 courses or you can't start.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't need more motivation.
So there's sort of like a requirement,
It's a requirement,
It's
yes.
it's not like
Yeah,
a kind of using motivational techniques to keep people engaged. It's like I got to do this if I want this job or if I want to be able
yeah,
to advance. Yeah, I
yeah.
understand that.
Hmm.
But let me ask you another quick question here. What about, are we training people in this sort of platform environment to get better at interacting with that sort of technology? Or are we training people to use what we've learned to apply it in human interactions? Are we training people to be better humans? Or are we training people to be better interactors with technology?
No, the second one. I mean, the first one it's kind of what you need in order to do the second one, right? You need to be good at interacting with technology in order to be trained to be better at your job and better at yourself. I do think
Okay.
that AI is enabler to to supercharge the human,
Yeah.
and that not to replace it.
Is there a
Um,
point by which I mean, you look in your crystal ball or you look down the road whereby society starts to tip more towards a technological focus versus a human focus, and that what we're really training people to do in platforms like yours is to get better at interacting with other bots and other technologies versus other humans. Is that a worry
but
for
I think we've
you?
been here before, right? In terms of interacting with technology, right?
Yeah.
About 30 years ago, uh, you needed to, if you're gonna call for support of anything, you call, and hopefully you got somebody on the other side. Most of the time will be busy because you don't have enough agents. As the left, phone technology got better, then
Yeah.
you can have agents and things like that. But eventually you start getting into not everyone speaking to everyone, because it's like click here for this and click here for that, and then we all
Right.
have to
Right.
get good at how to get through that,
Yes.
which is a nightmare. So I think throughout history, we always have to have, there have been times in which we have to adapt to the new technology for everything that we do. And the ATM, instead of going to the bank, the internet enabled a bunch of processes that before needed to be in person, and now you didn't have to do in person. For me, eh, this is one more of that. It's a technology we all have to learn how to interact with, because that's part of the world that we live. But that not necessarily mean that we're losing our humanity in it.
Understood. I had to ask it. It's
Yeah.
got to be. That's the question. And I guess you must be the price point on all this must be affordable. I'm assuming
Yeah.
for the small to large business. Is it now? I'm curious from a
Hmm.
almost like a consumer basis.
Right.
Do you set up your fee structures based on individual seats, or is it you get a package and you get 50 and you get a discount? I mean, how does that work?
No, it's based on tiers of the number of people that you're gonna train. So our smaller package is about for 50 learners,
Yep.
and it starts at $700 a month. We do annual contracts, so it's $8,400 a year. And then it can go up from there to 500 users, and then you know $30,000 a year. Um, Even at that level, you could not hire one person to do what this platform does.
I hear you. I hear you. No, it's totally good. So your platform actually does the instructional design.
Yes.
You plunk in whatever questions and answers that you need to, and
Yeah.
it kicks out the syllabus, the agenda, the
Right.
materials, whatever your particular flavor is.
Hmm.
And so it's really a plug and play kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
A stadium where the Orlando Magic play here. So we first came from safety and security. So the director of safety and security, he said, I have all my processes mapped out in this nice manual for safety and security. And the only thing I can do for the employees is give it to them and mark them in the list that they took. And I don't know if they can read it. I don't know if they understand it. I don't know if they can even apply it. So I said, fine, we'll took that. Is is used as a reference in our system. And I would say we want a course on safety and security for this stadium based on this reference.
Hmm.
And then it designs a course.
Hmm.
And it take the information from that manual. And you can say, well, this is for entry level people, or this is very supposed to be advanced. And then it creates all the lessons based on the learning outcomes that you want to have. And it actually comes up with learning outcomes, which is something instructional designer knows how to do, but people don't think in learning outcomes. Learning
Right.
outcomes is when you think about a course, is what do I want the person to know at the end of it?
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to design based on that.
Yeah.
Our system will spit out the learning outcomes and all the lessons that it requires, and then write the lessons and put pictures in it, so it's nice.
Wow.
Write a narrative for each slide, puts a voice on it, so you can
Wow.
also hear it. And then it puts assessments around, and then you can start by putting simulations and complementing that along the way. And so by the end of it, you have a full course that would have taken you 100 hours to do. You can probably do it in 20.
Wow. Hmm.
You still have to
We
put the
might
training
need
hours. But
we might need to talk.
yeah, well, thank you. Yeah,
Let's talk.
absolutely.
This is
Yeah.
fascinating. So, Luis, how do people find you?
Mhm.
Websites, books, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So easiest domain out there, you can find us at pete.com, PETE.com.
So, and tell us what that's the acronym for.
It is personalized education, training, and enrichment.
And enrichment. Okay,
Mhm.
good.
And as you
And
go to
that's the main space.
pete.com, you can see
Okay,
what are we about. You can find me there, connect with me in LinkedIn if you want to. And you can, if you're interested in our product, fill up a form. We'll call you right back.
sounds good. And are you involved with LinkedIn or any other social media
Yes,
that
I'm in
people should know
LinkedIn.
about? Okay.
Absolutely. And my profile is, make sure I get it right. Um, by the way, I've been in LinkedIn for a very long time. I'm in between the first 300,000 users.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah. So it is Luis E. Garcia.
Okay, so but E. Garcia. Okay,
Yeah.
so Luis E.
Luis
Period
E.
Garcia.
Garcia, all one
Okay,
word. And
good.
that's my profile.
That's great. Well, Luis E. Garcia, hailing from Florida, where it's warm because you got a T-shirt on. Thank you for your time on this. This has just been great.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Leadervation with Dean Newland. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com, or check the show notes. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. Transform your leadership success with Leadervation.